Ladies and gentlemen, there's something I want you to understand today, and I hope you write this down, meditate on it, and let it change the way you walk from this day forward. The title of this message is Fight for Your Dream Because Nobody Else Will. You see, the dream that's inside you, it didn't come from your environment, it didn't come from your bank account, and it didn't come from the people around you. That dream came from God, and if God put it in you, it's because He believes you can carry it to full term. But here's the catch. Just because the dream is divine doesn't mean the delivery is automatic. The dream is free, but the grind is sold separately. Let me make it plain. God gives vision, but man must supply the fight. God spoke to Noah, but Noah still had to build the ark. God gave Joseph a dream, but Joseph still had to survive the pit, Potiphar's house, and the prison before he saw the palace. Don't expect anybody to fight for your dream when you haven't shown that you're willing to fight for it yourself. People will doubt you, friends will walk away, family might not believe, and you know what? That's okay because God didn't give them your dream, He gave it to you. If you're waiting on someone else to cheer you on, validate you, or fund your vision before you move, you'll be stuck for life. Stop outsourcing your belief. Stop subcontracting your responsibility. Your dream will never be bigger than your discipline. Most people fail not because they didn't have the dream, but because they didn't make the decision. And I'm talking about the decision to fight through fear, to fight through fatigue, to fight through failure. This is not the season to fold. This is not the time to quit. This is the hour to rise. Start working like you're already chosen. Start speaking like your vision is already funded. Start walking like the promise is already yours because spiritually it is. But until you act, until you move, until you show up daily with grit and grace, you will live in frustration, not fulfillment. So fight when it's hard, fight when you feel unseen, fight when nothing's working, fight like your children's future depends on it because it does. Now go build what you were born to create. Because when you fight in faith, you never lose. The dream that lives inside you is not a coincidence. It didn't show up by chance. That vision, that idea that burns in your soul, it came from God. And when God gives you something, He gives it with intention. He gives it with purpose. But here's what most people don't understand. Just because God gave it doesn't mean you don't have to fight for it. People think because the dream was divine, the process should be easy. But the opposite is true. The greater the dream, the greater the demand. God gives the vision, but He requires you to supply the fight. When David was anointed king, he didn't walk straight to the throne. He walked back to the field, he fought Goliath, he ran from Saul, he hid in caves. Why? Because the anointing doesn't cancel adversity. It invites it. The moment you receive the dream, opposition will rise up to meet you. Not because the dream isn't real, but because the dream is so real that the enemy knows what's coming if you don't quit. When God gave Noah the instructions to build the ark, it wasn't a miracle, it was a manual. And Noah still had to swing the hammer. He still had to cut the wood. He still had to deal with people laughing at him, mocking him, doubting him. He had to build something in faith that he'd never seen before. There had never been rain like that, never been a flood like that, but Noah obeyed because he trusted the voice that gave the vision. You've got to do the same. God will give you the picture of the promise, but He won't build it for you. That's your job. Your faith is proven not by how loud you shout about your dream, but how hard you're willing to fight for it when nobody believes. It's easy to be excited when everyone's clapping, but can you keep hammering when they're laughing? Can you keep showing up when you feel like it's not working? Don't confuse divine instruction with divine implementation. God never promised He'd do your part. He promised He'd bless your obedience. When you move, He multiplies. When you act, He anoints. When you step, He supplies. But it all starts with your willingness to fight. There will be days you're tired, days when the dream feels like a burden, days when you question if you heard right. But that's the moment when your fight must be louder than your fear. That's when you dig in and remind yourself, this dream was given to me, and if God trusted me with it, then He believes I can carry it through. So don't sit back waiting for a miracle. Be the miracle in motion. Fight for what you were born for because nobody else will, and truthfully, nobody else can. The dream is yours, so is the fight. Excuses are one of the most dangerous enemies of success, not because they're loud, but because they're subtle. Excuses don't show up shouting. They show up sounding reasonable. They disguise themselves as logic, as good reasons, as timing isn't right, or I'm waiting for a sign. But excuses don't protect you, they imprison you. Every time you allow an excuse to justify your delay, you hand over the keys to your destiny and lock yourself in the same cycle of average. And here's the truth. Nobody else is coming to fight for your dream, especially if you've already surrendered it with your excuses. You've got to get real with yourself. Be honest about what's stopping you, because most of the time, it's not your background, your bank account, or your education, it's your excuses. It's the internal conversation you have with yourself that convinces you to stop trying, to play it safe, to stay small. But you weren't built to be small. You weren't created to blend in. You were made in the image of a creator who spoke worlds into existence. That same creative power lives in you, but you keep letting your excuses silence it. Excuses never produce results. They only produce regret. People will spend 5, 10, 20 years telling the story of why they didn't chase their dream, how the timing wasn't right, how people didn't support them, how the economy shifted, and none of that will change the fact that they still didn't do it. You've got to decide right now that your future is worth more than your fears, that your destiny is more important than your discomfort, that your vision is more valuable than your validation. Excuses give you a way out, but your calling gives you a way forward, and until you stop choosing the way out, you'll never see the way through. You must choose execution over excuses. That means doing it when you don't feel like it. That means showing up when no one's clapping. That means working the vision when nothing's working around you. Because true belief isn't seen in your words, it's seen in your works. You know what separates those who live their dream from those who only talk about it. One simple thing, responsibility. The ones who make it, they take full ownership of the dream and everything required to make it happen. No blaming, no complaining, no justifying. Just pure, consistent, uncomfortable action. So if you're serious about the dream, you've got to be ruthless with your excuses, starve them, silence them, replace them with movement. You don't need another motivational video, you need a decision. And that decision is this: I will no longer let my excuses be louder than my effort. Because here's the bottom line, nobody is going to fight through your excuses for you. That's your fight. That's your responsibility. And the moment you own that is the moment your dream begins to move. Your dream is not just a spiritual assignment, it's a practical one. Too many people have passion but no plan. They've got heart but no strategy. They're shouting about what they want, but they haven't positioned themselves to actually receive it. That's why your dream doesn't just require work, it requires wisdom. And not just worldly wisdom, but divine insight, the kind that helps you see the difference between activity and productivity. You can be busy and still be broke. You can be working hard and still be wandering. Work alone isn't enough. You need wise work. Wisdom shows you how to take your energy and aim it in the right direction. Wisdom is what allows you to take your gift and build systems, structures, and strategies that multiply it. Remember, God is not the author of confusion, He's the God of order. So if your life is chaotic, if your dream is always on pause, it may not be because of a lack of effort, it may be because you haven't applied wisdom to your effort. And here's another layer most people miss. Your dream also requires a wealth consciousness. That means you have to develop a mindset that sees money as a tool, not as a master, and not as an obstacle. If your dream requires funding, you need to be ready to attract it, manage it, and multiply it. You don't get to say money doesn't matter when you're trying to build something that requires financial resources. That's a poverty mentality disguised as humility. God doesn't want you broke and broken. He wants you blessed so you can be a blessing. Look at every major dream in the Bible. It had a financial component. Solomon's temple cost something. Nehemiah rebuilding the wall required resources. Jesus had financial supporters funding his ministry. Stop thinking you can ignore money and still fulfill a big calling. Wealth is not evil, the love of it is. But when used correctly, wealth allows you to walk in purpose at scale. It lets you impact not just your life, but your family, your community, and generations to come. So yes, you need to work, but you also need wisdom. You need to think like a steward, not just a servant. You need to prepare your mindset to handle the manifestation of the dream, because if your hands aren't ready, God can't trust the harvest. He's not going to give you more than your mindset can manage. And that means if your dream is going to come to life, you've got to grow into the kind of person who can sustain it. Not just spiritually, but financially and mentally too. So don't just work for your dream, grow for it. Read books, learn systems, build teams, study wealth, seek mentors, pray for discernment, because the dream is real, but it won't manifest through motion alone. It manifests through wisdom applied, wealth managed, and work done in alignment with God's principles. The truth is, the world doesn't believe in what you won't defend. People don't rally behind uncertain voices. They follow conviction. If you don't take your dreams seriously, neither will anyone else. You have to become the first investor in your own vision, not just with money, but with passion, words, time, and energy. You must speak life into your dream daily, especially when no one else does. When you're silent about your dream, you give the world permission to overlook it. But when you speak boldly, consistently, and unapologetically, you teach people how to respect what you're building. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. When God gives you a dream, He expects you to guard it like a treasure. That means you don't let doubt dictate your decisions. That means you don't lower your standards to make others comfortable. That means you don't ask for permission to become who you were born to be. You declare it, you move like it, you build like it's already done. People are watching how you treat your dream, if you keep it hidden, if you keep second, guessing yourself, if you're waiting for a perfect time. Or someone to co-sign it, you've already told them it's not worth believing in. But if you show up with consistency, if you speak with confidence, if you take action without needing applause, now you're creating momentum. Now people start paying attention, not because you ask them to, but because your movement is louder than your message. It's easy to talk about the dream in private, easy to write about it in journals. But real transformation happens when you take it public, when you live it out. Even if it's messy, even if it's small, even if people don't understand. Because most people aren't doubting your dream, they're just unsure if you believe it. And belief is shown in how boldly you defend it when it's under pressure. Think about a lawyer defending a case. If the lawyer doesn't sound convinced, the jury won't be either. If you're not defending your dream with passion and clarity, why would anyone invest in it, follow it, or support it? You've got to make it plain. You've got to show the receipts, show the work, speak the language of someone who has already seen the end in their spirit, even if they haven't touched it yet in the natural. You were not born to whisper your destiny. You were not called to hide what heaven placed in your heart. You were designed to build boldly, speak confidently, and walk with the kind of authority that makes others stop and take notice. And that doesn't come from ego, it comes from understanding the assignment. So defend your dream, talk about it with clarity, protect it with discipline, walk in it with purpose, because if you won't fight for it, why should anyone else? The world responds to certainty. Your dream doesn't need approval, it needs a voice. Let that voice be yours. The people who leave a legacy, who shift history, who break generational curses, they are never the ones who waited for permission. They are not the ones who hoped someone else would do it. They are the ones who fought. They fought through fear. They fought through fatigue. They fought through failure. And most importantly, they fought when no one else believed it was worth fighting for. Legacy doesn't come from wishing, it comes from warring. Every step toward your dream is a battle. Every level of growth requires another version of you to rise and fight. If you want to be remembered, you must first decide to fight like you're irreplaceable, because in the context of your calling, you are. You've got to stop waiting for someone to hand it to you. No one's coming to save you. Nobody is going to put the crown on your head. You have to rise and claim what you were born to do. Legacy builders don't sit on the sidelines. They don't coast. They conquer. They don't look for ease. They look for opportunities to overcome. The people who changed the world, they weren't the strongest, smartest, or most resourced, but they were the most relentless. They got up every time they got knocked down. They didn't let opinions become their prison. They didn't let comfort become their coffin. They embraced the pain, endured the process, and earned the promise. You've got to understand, the dream you're carrying isn't just for you. It's for your children, your grandchildren. It's for the people watching you in silence, waiting to see if your faith is real. It's for the generation coming behind you that will either be empowered or enslaved by the decisions you make right now. And that's not pressure, that's purpose. That's power. That's the kind of responsibility that pulls greatness out of you when excuses try to creep in. Every fighter leaves marks, and the marks you leave behind, your example, your integrity, your sacrifices, those become the blueprint for someone else's breakthrough. But if you give up, if you shrink back, if you settle, what message are you sending to the people assigned to your life? You're telling them it's okay to quit when it gets hard. You're telling them mediocrity is acceptable. But if you stand, if you keep building, if you keep showing up, you become proof that fighting pays off. That purpose is greater than pain. Your legacy is not built in moments of comfort. It's built in the fire. It's built in the fight. Every late night, every early morning, every silent prayer, every rejected idea, every lonely decision, every yes to the dream when everything in you wanted to quit. Those are the bricks that build legacy. You weren't put here to pass through time unnoticed. You were placed here to make noise, to shake things up, to leave something behind that says, I was here and I fought for it. Let your life speak. Let your grit shout. Let your work echo through eternity. Because only fighters leave a legacy. Only fighters fulfill the dream. You've heard it loud and clear. The dream is yours, but the fight is too. And if you walk away with anything today, let it be this: you are the chosen one for your assignment. Not your friends, not your family, not your followers, you. God didn't give them the vision, He gave it to you. And that means you are responsible for protecting it, pursuing it, and pushing through every storm until it becomes your reality. This journey will not be easy. You will be misunderstood. You will be overlooked. You will feel alone at times, but that's the price of greatness. That's the cost of calling. Dreams don't manifest because we sit on them. Dreams are born through pressure, pain, planning, and persistence. Every excuse you bury, every fear you face, every time you move without applause, you are building something eternal. Stop waiting for permission. Stop looking for someone else to give you a chance. You are the chance. Your legacy starts the moment you decide to stop retreating and start advancing. Stop talking and start building. Stop hoping and start moving. You are not just fighting for a dream, you are fighting for a generation, for a legacy, for the person you were always meant to become, and nobody else will do it for you because nobody else can. The dream is yours. The calling is yours, and now the choice is yours. So rise up, show up, lock in, fight for your dream, because nobody else will.